My fiancé texted me, "If you embarrass me today in front of my family, I will never forgive you. Don't make a scene." I didn't say anything back. I just read it twice. Put the phone face down on the bathroom counter. Looked at myself in the mirror, bow tie straight, boutonniere pinned, hands not even shaking. I said, "Okay." Then I slid the phone into my jacket pocket and walked out to greet the groomsmen. 3 hours later, I was standing at an altar in front of 200 people, and I stopped my own wedding. Her name was Claire. And I want to be honest with you guys, I love that woman. Like, embarrassingly, completely, stupidly in love. The kind where you memorize how she takes her coffee. Oat milk, 1 sugar, always too hot. She never lets it cool. The kind where you know which side of the bed she needs, or she can't sleep. The kind where you've already named the hypothetical dog. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party 3 years ago. She was arguing with someone about whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie, loudly, confidently, completely wrong, and I walked over just to watch the chaos. 20 minutes later, she had somehow made me feel like I was the most interesting person she'd ever met. That's her superpower, I'd learn later. Making you feel chosen. We dated for 2 years. Got engaged 8 months ago. The ring cost me $4,200. Not complaining, just context. The wedding? $38,000. Her family paid some. I paid some. We combined everything. Venue booked 14 months in advance. A vineyard an hour outside the city. White tents, string lights, a catering bill that made me briefly consider eloping. And I want to be fair. There were good years. Real ones. She'd leave little sticky notes in my laptop bag. She laughed at my terrible jokes harder than they deserved. She held my hand during my dad's surgery and didn't let go for 4 hours, even though her arm must have fallen asleep. That was real. I don't want to pretend it wasn't. But there were things. Small things. The kind you file under quirks because you love somebody. Like how she'd get quiet and cold if I spent time with my friends without telling her first. Not angry. Just absent. Punishing silence. And when I'd ask what was wrong, she'd say nothing in the voice that meant everything and expect me to decode it. Or how she'd introduce me at parties sometimes. Like a footnote. "This is Daniel. He's in logistics. I manage supply chain operations for a company with 4 international offices. Not that it matters what I do. It's just, she knew I was proud of it. And she always said logistics in this faint, dismissive tone, like she was slightly embarrassed by the answer. I told myself, she doesn't mean it like that. She's just awkward at parties. Or how whenever I dressed nicely, like actually put effort in, she'd say something like, "Trying hard tonight, huh?" with a little smile. Just small enough that I couldn't call it out without looking insecure. I told myself, she's teasing. Couples do that. There was this one moment, maybe 6 months before the wedding. We were at dinner with her coworkers, and she told a story about a trip we took, except she'd changed the details slightly, made it funnier. And in her version, I was a little dumb. Lost the reservation, forgot the name of the hotel, panicked. The table laughed. I smiled. None of it happened that way. Afterward in the car, I said, "Hey, that's not really how it went." She said, "Daniel, don't be so sensitive. It was a funny story." I nodded. I should have stayed with that nod longer. But here's the thing about love. It makes you a terrible editor of your own life. You cut the scenes that don't fit the story you want to be living. So I planned the wedding. I showed up to every tasting, every venue walkthrough. I handwrote 200 place cards because Claire said the calligrapher was too expensive. My hand cramped for 3 days. The morning of the wedding, I was calm. Genuinely calm. I'm not a nervous person by nature. I had my guys with me. Marcus, my best man, who I've known since 7th grade. Tommy and Raj rounding out the groomsmen. We took photos at the hotel. Had breakfast. Laughed. My phone buzzed at 11:07 a.m. Unknown number. The message just said, "Congratulations. Thought you should see this clinking glasses." And below it, a video. I almost didn't watch it. I thought, spam. Some weird congratulations scam. I nearly closed it. I kid you not. I almost closed it. But something in my chest went quiet in a specific way. The way it does when your body knows something your brain hasn't caught up to yet. I pressed play. It was filmed vertically. Hotel room. Curtains drawn. Someone had ordered room service. I could see the card in the background. A bottle of champagne, 2 glasses. Claire was in the video. And she wasn't alone. I won't describe the whole thing. What I'll tell you is this. It wasn't ambiguous. It wasn't an innocent moment misread. It was exactly what it looked like. And the timestamp in the corner of the video, the metadata visible when I zoomed in, was from this morning. 9:43 a.m. I was getting dressed at 9:43 a.m. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed for maybe 90 seconds. Marcus knocked on the door. Dan, 15 minutes, man. Limo's here. I put the phone in my pocket. I tied my shoes. I went downstairs. Here's what I didn't do. I didn't run into the venue screaming. I didn't call Claire. I didn't forward the video to anyone. I didn't cry in the limo. I sat in the back of that limo with my groomsmen, and I listened to Tommy argue with Raj about soccer, and I thought very carefully. Who sent that video? Unknown number. But they knew today was the wedding. They said congratulations, present tense, like they thought I was about to get married and wanted to, what? Warn me? Wreck it? Both. And I thought about Claire's text that morning. If you embarrass me today in front of my family, I will never forgive you. I had assumed that was nerves. Pre-wedding anxiety. Bride stress. I was rethinking that assumption. Marcus noticed. He's known me long enough to read the weather of my face. He waited until Tommy and Raj were doing something on their phones and leaned over. You good? I need to tell you something, I said. But I need you to just listen and not react. He listened. I showed him the video. Marcus is a big guy, played linebacker in college, still has the shoulders. I watched his jaw go very tight and his eyes go very still, and he did not say a word for about 15 seconds. Then he said, "How long have you had this?" "Since 11. And you just... I need to know who sent it first." Marcus was quiet. And then he said something that changed everything. "Dan, I need to tell you something too. And I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I was trying to figure out if it was real." I looked at him. "About 3 weeks ago," he said slowly, "I saw Claire's car parked outside the Marriott on Clement Street. At 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. I don't know what I thought. I didn't want to be the guy who, so I just kept watching. I saw her come out 40 minutes later. With a guy. They hugged for a long time. I took a photo because my brain told me to." He showed me the photo. The guy in the photo was tall. Dark jacket. I didn't recognize him. Until I zoomed in. It was her coworker. The one from the dinner party. The one who had laughed loudest at the story where I forgot the hotel name. "His name is Seth," Marcus said quietly. I looked him up. They've worked together for 2 years. 2 years. I thought about the dinner party. I thought about the way Seth had looked at her when she told the story. Not like he was hearing it for the first time. And then, and this is the moment where everything went cold in a very specific way, I remembered something. 6 months ago, Claire had asked me about the Marriott on Clement. Casually. Over dinner. "Do you think that hotel is nice?" Someone at work mentioned it. I'd said I didn't know, never been there. She'd nodded and changed the subject. She'd been researching her alibi location over dinner with me. I almost laughed. The sheer audacity of it made me want to laugh. "Marcus," I said, "who do you think sent the video?" He thought about it. Someone who knew about them. Someone who also knew today was the day and decided. Either guilt or malice, one of the two. My mind went to the unknown number. Could be someone from his side, Marcus offered. Ex-girlfriend, someone he wronged. Someone who found out and wanted to burn it down. Or, I said, it could be someone from her side. Marcus frowned. "That's dark." She texted me this morning to not make a scene. Before any of this. Like she was nervous about something specific. The limo pulled up to the vineyard. I could see the white tent. The string lights, even in daylight. I could see Claire's family arriving, elegant and smiling. "What do you want to do?" Marcus said. And here's the thing. Here's the part people always ask me about. I didn't feel anger. Not yet. I felt something colder and clearer than anger. I felt like a window that had been fogged over for 3 years had finally wiped clean. "I'm going to walk down that aisle," I said. Marcus stared at me. "I'm going to let her say her vows," I said. "And then I'm going to say mine." I smoothed my jacket. Stepped out of the limo. "The look on her face," I said, mostly to myself. "When she realizes what's happening, I need that to be public." She made everything about me a punchline in front of an audience. Just once, I want an audience too. Petty? Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely. The vineyard was genuinely beautiful. I'll give her that. She had good taste. 200 guests. White chairs arranged in rows. A string quartet playing something soft and lovely. The officiant, a friend of her family, standing at the altar looking serene. I walked down the aisle, and people smiled at me, and I smiled back. Genuinely. My cheeks didn't even feel tight about it. I stood at the altar. And then the music changed, and everyone stood, and Claire appeared. She looked I'll be honest with you. She looked stunning. Ivory dress, cathedral veil, her hair pinned up the way she only did for special occasions. Carrying white peonies because she'd spent 4 months deciding on white peonies. She saw me and her face did this relief thing. Like she'd been holding a breath and let it go. She walked toward me and I watched her come closer, and I thought, she really thought today was going to happen. She walked into this vineyard having done what she did this morning, and she genuinely thought everything was going to be fine. That tells you something about how she sees me. She took my hands at the altar. Hers were cold. I noticed that. You okay? She whispered. You look. I'm great, I said quietly. You look beautiful. She smiled. It was real. The officiant began. The guests sat. I stood there completely present for every single word, which I think surprised people later, how calm I seemed. We got to the vows. I had written mine. Spent 3 weeks on them. They were in my jacket pocket, folded, behind my phone. Claire went first. She had memorized hers. She looked into my eyes, and she said them, and they were genuinely beautiful. She talked about the day we met, about the sticky notes, about the hospital with my dad. She was crying by the end, and so were half the guests. I didn't cry. I waited. The officiant looked at me. Daniel, would you like to share your vows? I reached into my jacket. I unfolded a piece of paper, but I didn't read from it. I looked at Claire. I had these written, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. That was deliberate. I spent 3 weeks on them, and I'm not going to read them. The crowd went a little still. Claire's smile flickered, just slightly, like a signal cutting out. Instead, I said, I want to ask you something. In front of everyone here who loves you. Daniel, she said. Quiet. Warning. And I thought about her text. Don't make a scene. Claire, I said. Who were you with this morning? At the hotel. The silence that followed was the specific silence of 200 people not breathing at exactly the same moment. Her face. I want to be careful how I describe this because I don't want to be cruel about it, but her face did something I had never seen it do. It collapsed. Just for a second. Like all the architecture of it gave way. Then she rebuilt it. Fast. I'll give her that. What are you doing? She said. Low. Controlled. The voice she used when she was punishing me with silence, but with sound this time. Just answer the question, I said. Still calm. I don't know how I was that calm. Was it Seth? Someone in the crowd made a noise. Her mother said something sharply in the row behind us. You are embarrassing me, Claire said. And she said it the way she'd always said things, with that micro edge. That implication that I was the problem, the oversensitive one, the one making things weird. And I thought, there it is. I'm embarrassing you, I repeated. Conversationally, like I was noting the weather. Yeah, I got a video this morning at 11:07 of you at a hotel with a timestamp of 9:43 a.m. I looked at her. Did you think I wouldn't find out? Or did you think I just wouldn't say anything? Her jaw worked. So which is it? I said, very quietly. Did you know me too well or not well enough? That question broke something in her. You can't do this, she said, and now her voice was cracking and not in the way it had cracked during her vows. This was different. This was panic. You cannot do this to me. Not here. Not today. Do you know what she stopped. Looked around at the 200 faces. Her perfectly curated guest list. Her family. Seth's work colleagues who had somehow made the invite list. You are ruining everything. I didn't do anything this morning, I said. That landed. I watched it land. I didn't do anything, I said again. Softer. I just found out. She looked at me, and for 1 second I saw it. The real thing under all the architecture. Something small and frightened and genuinely sorry. And I'm being honest with you, I almost felt bad for her. And then she said it. You're always so sensitive, Daniel. Same voice. Same micro edge. Same implication. In front of 200 people. In her wedding dress. Having just been caught. She said, you're always so sensitive. And honestly, the way some of her family members visibly recoiled, that was the moment. That was when it was over. Not for me. I was already done. But for them. Marcus said later. It was like watching someone defend themselves in court by confessing to a worse crime. I folded my vows back up, put them in my pocket. I'm going to go, I said. To her, and to the officiant, and to the vineyard, and to all 200 people. I'm sorry to everyone who came out today. The food is already paid for. I hope the wine is good. I turned around. I walked back up the aisle. And because I am petty and I will not pretend otherwise, as I passed the last row, I made eye contact with Seth, who had apparently had the audacity to show up. I stopped. I looked at him. I said, "The wine really is paid for. Enjoy it." And I kept walking. The next 48 hours were, to be frank, unhinged. 17 missed calls from Claire. I didn't answer any of them. Not because I was making a point, though that too, but because I genuinely had nothing left to say. She left a voicemail that was 9 minutes long. I listened to it once, in my car, parked outside my apartment. She cycled through approximately every emotional gear available to a human being. Apologetic, defensive, furious. Apologetic again, briefly accusatory, at one point she implied that I'd forced her into it by being emotionally unavailable, which would be more hurting if I hadn't literally handwritten 200 place cards. Back to apologetic, ending on something that was almost real. I sat with it for a minute. Then I deleted it. There were posts. Her friends rallied first. Vague Instagram stories about protecting their queen and knowing your worth, which was impressive, given that I was the one who'd been cheated on. But social media has its own physics. But then, and this is the part one did not expect, her own people started to flip. It started with her cousin Diane. Diane texted me 2 days after the wedding. "For what it's worth, Daniel, I'm sorry. She told me things about you for years that I'm now realizing weren't fair." I believed her. I shouldn't have. Then her college friend Priya called Marcus. Apparently Claire had told a version of our relationship to her friends where I was a supporting character who didn't quite appreciate her enough. And when those friends actually watched what happened, some of them were there. Some of them saw the scattered accounts. They started comparing notes. And the notes didn't add up. Seth's involvement, it turned out, had been an open secret in her friend group for nearly a year. At least 2 people had known. One of them was the unknown number, a woman named Jess who had dated Seth before he and Claire started whatever they were doing. Jess had tried to tell Claire to end it cleanly before the wedding. Claire hadn't. So Jess had made a decision. Loyalty versus honesty. And Jess had chosen honesty. I texted Jess once, weeks later. "Just, thank you." She replied, "I'm sorry it came to that. You seem like a good guy from the videos. I hope you actually are. I like that. It was real. I need to tell you about the moment I actually fell apart. Because I didn't fall apart at the altar. I didn't fall apart in the limo. I didn't fall apart when Marcus poured me a drink that night, and we sat on my floor, and he didn't say anything smart or wise. He just sat there, which was exactly right. I fell apart about 2 weeks later. I was unpacking a box in my apartment. We'd been planning to move in together after the honeymoon, and at the bottom of the box was a sticky note. One of hers. From maybe a year ago. It just said, "You left the coffee on. Also, you're my favorite person. Also, turn off the coffee." And I sat down on the floor with that sticky note, and I cried. Really cried. The ugly kind with no dignity. Not for the wedding, not for the $4,200 ring that she'd mailed back in a padded envelope. I appreciated that, honestly. Not even for the betrayal. For the sticky note version of her. The one who might have been real. The one who held my hand at the hospital for 4 hours. I cried for her, which felt insane and was also completely human. Marcus found me later. I'd called him without realizing it. Just misdial or pocket dial or some form of unconscious SOS. He sat on the floor with me. "You good?" "No," I said. "Okay," he said. "We ordered pizza. Ben and Jerry's cookie dough from the place that delivers at midnight. I ate too much of it. It helped approximately 12%. Here's where I am now. The $38,000 wedding that didn't happen left me out about $11,000 after what could be refunded. The venue kept some of the deposit. The caterer kept some. The florist, bless her, gave me almost everything back when I explained. I'm not going to pretend that didn't sting. I went to therapy. It's going well. My therapist is a small woman who says very little and asks very precise questions and makes me feel like a bug being pinned to a board in the most helpful possible way. Claire and Seth are apparently together now. Officially. There's a public Instagram. I found out from Diane, who texts me occasionally and seems genuinely guilty in a way that I've decided to accept rather than resent, because resentment is exhausting and Diane brought me soup once when I had the flu and that shouldn't be erased. I look at it, the Instagram, rarely. And when I do, I notice she started reposting things about emotional intelligence and finding someone who appreciates you, which is a choice. I'm not going to say I'm fully healed. I'm not. Some days I still reach for my phone to tell her something and catch myself. And that specific catching myself feeling is one of the stranger griefs, not for what was real, but for the habit of a person. For 3 years of reflex. But here's what's also true. I walk differently. I don't mean metaphorically, though also that. I mean literally. Marcus pointed it out first, then my coworker Alicia noticed it. Something about how I carry my shoulders. Like I put something down and forgot to pick it back up. A few months ago, I wore a nice jacket to a colleague's birthday dinner. A woman named Priya, different Priya, not Claire's friend, said, "You look really good." Just like that. No asterisk. No trying hard tonight, huh? Just, "You look really good." I didn't know what to do with it for a second. Then I said thank you. And I meant it. I still have the vows. The ones I wrote and didn't read. They're folded in my desk drawer. Sometimes I think about throwing them out. I haven't yet. Maybe I'll use them someday. For someone who would never make me keep them in a drawer. Maybe that's enough of a reason to keep them. Either way, I walked out of that vineyard, and the string lights were still lit, and the wine was already poured, and 200 people were sitting in white chairs figuring out what to do with themselves. And I got in the limo, and Marcus said, "Food." And I said, "Food." And that was that.